Hello, dear friends. I'm Dr. Mukesh Pareek, and I welcome you all to my YouTube channel, English for Net JRF. Today, I'm present with the highly anthologized poem of William Blake, a pre-romantic writer. His poem, "The Tiger." Uh, the Tiger is a very easy as well as a confusing poem. The thing is that to understand William Blake's The Tiger, one has to have a deep knowledge of the private symbolic world or mythology which William Blake has created with his great over. Over means the kind of collection of his works. First and the foremost information which I can give you to understand this poem is that the tiger uh, is a poem which is a sister poem of the lamb which he wrote in his earlier collection Songs of Innocence. So first of all, the students who are approaching this poem first time should know that William Blake has written two collections, and the base of these collections, the names of the collections are the Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience. Now, one may ask, like, what is the meaning of Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience? Innocence here means the human condition, understanding psychology before the fall of Eden, the Garden of Eden. And Songs of Experience means when Adam and Eve, they lose their innocence, and they get the experience of sex is here, the experience of hardship, the experience of death, and the experience of the immoral nature of this world, the harsh realities. And these two collections, Songs of Experience, it was published in 1794, and then Songs of Innocence were written earlier in 1789. The two books were published together under the merged titles Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience, showing the two contrary states of the human soul, the author and printer William Blake. The reason I have read the whole title is that you should understand, first of all, that in the title itself, in the subtitle of the poem, it is I think the answer is hidden to understand the poem. The two contrary states of the human soul. It means Songs of Experience and Songs of Experience. Songs of Innocence, Songs of Experience. We human beings, when we are children, is the uncorrupted state, which we follow. And when we grow up, and we try and we start understanding the realities of the world, it's called the experienced state. In English literature, you will also come across two terms, pre-lapsarian and post-lapsarian. So this is Songs of Experience are the post-lapsarian. Lapsarian mean to say when Adam and Eve fall. Now, first of all, to understand, because I can't claim that my explanation is going to be the highly authentic one, because the Cambridge Companion has written that this poem is the most anthologized in the world. Number one, and number two, there are thousands of explanations available for this poem. But for the sake of the understanding of my students who are watching me right now, let me give you first of all a reading of this poem, and then I will try to explain like what the writer wants to convey. First of all, look at the slightly unusual spelling of the word tiger. Usual spelling is Tiger, but the writer has given the word a twist and symbolic significance by altering its spelling. Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night. Forests of the night here means forest is this society, and night means ignorance. Burning bright means the writer is showing his sheer exuberance, his enthralling attitude, condition of his understanding by looking at the tiger. And burning bright here does not mean, though there can be a symbolic meaning of the term burning bright. Burning bright is exactly the shining skin of tiger, but it can also be taken as, the fire in the eyes of the tiger. So let us understand, because then otherwise the poem will be very tough for me to explain. There are we understand a poem on two levels. First level is the denotative meaning, that is the surface meaning, what the writer wants to convey. And or we can understand a poem. Suppose that this poem is in the course of students of 8th standard, or say 9th standard, 10th standard, then we cannot go into the very depth of the symbolic meaning or explanation. So let me give you the first denotative explanation of the poem, and then I will go into the deeper explanation. Let me read first of all. Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what shoulder and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the hammer, what the chain, in what furnace was thy brain? What the anvil? What dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? When the stars threw down their spears, what watered heaven with their tears? Did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tyger, Tyger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? So this is a poem in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 stanzas of 4 lines each. So we can call it a quatrain. Then second information, that most of the time we find that most of the famous English writers have written their poems in iambic pentameter, but this poem is on the contrary, is written in trochaic meter. The opposite of iambic is trochaic. Iambic is unstressed and stressed. This is stressed and then unstressed. Because if you read the word tiger, tiger means we have a stress first. Okay, so tiger, we have a stress on tie. On go we don't have stress. So Tyger, Tyger, burning bright. And why I call it tetrameter, because look at my the beating of my fingers. Tyger, 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 burning bright. I'm not saying brighter. It means there is a stress on B and not on the T. In the same way, I'm not saying tiger. I'm simply saying tiger. It means there is a stress on T and there is no stress on R. So this is simple explanation, like how we can understand the meter and prosody. Then it's my duty to explain I rhyme. What is I rhyme? I rhyme mean to say, look at these words. Like simple explanation of the term I rhyme means the words look like they are in rhyme, but actually they are not. The spelling are, they look, from musical point of view, they look similar, but when we pronounce them, their pronunciations are actually different. But for the sake of musicality, to retain the musicality of the poem, we need to pronounce them accordingly. So I and symmetry, the pronunciation of the word I is I and symmetry is symmetry. We never pronounce symmetry, symmetry, but for the sake of the meter, I'm pronouncing it. So these two words I and symmetry are creating an I rhyme. Okay. Now to explain this poem, I would simply ask you that the writer has used a simple technique of asking the tiger a rhetorical question, because tiger cannot answer. So he's simply asking the question like, tiger, you're so beautiful. Who made you? Who made this fearful symmetry? Fearsome is a word. Fearful is exactly not a word, but the writer has created, because you know that writers have this liberty of creating words. And then he says in the second stanza that in what distance deeps means ocean, or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes, means your eyes are very shining. And who made these? Who created this? On what wings dare he aspires? What the hand dare sees the fire? Then in these two lines he asks about the maker, one who creates. Now we can easily understand that God is talking about God. God has created, and then he's saying that on what kind of imagination this God has, who can create this kind of imaginary a creature, because this writer considers that everything in this world is the creation of a highly creative being, and that is God. In the third stanza he says that, and what shoulder and what art. Look at the juxtaposition of these two words. One on one line, on one hand he has shoulder, and on one hand he has art. So here we can easily say, we can very confidently say that though he is talking about, it looks like, it seems that he's talking about God, but he's somewhere talking about the artist, because artist is also considered a creator in the romantic poetry. They say that an artist is equivalent to God. So with that art, what shoulder, what power that creator has, who can create this kind of creature, could twist the sinews of thy heart. What kind of heart you, Tiger, must have, and who must have created the sinews, the minute the veins of your heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? Feet cannot be dread, so transferred epithet is used here. And then writer asks again the same question. He's still in the series of asking questions that who gave you the power, the creative soul in you, the fierce ferocious soul in you, with the power of which your heart is beating. And now but then again, the juxtaposition of the dread hand and dread feet, because a tiger does not have a hand. So the creator must have a sublime, or say a hand, which creates an awe, which creates a kind of sublimity in us. So that creator must have created this feet, which can make us feel fearsome, or we are afraid of that feet. What the hammer, what the chain, in what furnace was thy brain? Now here the writer has used an imagery of smithy. And the creator has been in a direct or in an indirect manner. We can understand, like the creator or the poet, God has been here compared with a blacksmith who is working in his smithy with his hammer, with his chain, with his furnace where there is fire, and with all these things he must have created the brain of the tiger. What the anvil is, that iron platform on which the blacksmith hits with hammer certain things which he's creating. What dread grasp, and that blacksmith needs a tight grasp to hold dare its deadly terrors clasp. Now it's the term it's here shows that his writer is talking about the ferocious nature. Ferocious means which makes us afraid of something. It means the tiger whose claws or paws are very dangerous. So how this great ferocious creature must have been created, in what kind of smithy? Who is that creator? The writer is asking still the series of questions, rhetorical questions, which I think answers are not ready. The tiger cannot speak, but we can understand if we know the whole nature of the mythology in the mind of the writer William Blake, who feels that God, you all can understand that God here is exactly, because this is not a poem which is in the line of a theist someone who is writing a hymn, but there is no doubt that the writer must have been praising God. On one hand, you can take it as a psalm, as a hymn, as a praise to God, but on the other hand, if we go in the depth of the whole planning of this work, that on the one hand, because songs of experience were written later and songs of innocence were written earlier. So songs of, if we compare, because as I earlier said, that this poem can only be understood in the light of understanding of the poem The Lamb. I will also explain this poem in some other video. Lamb is innocent, and lamb is also considered is akin to Christ in the biblical sense. And in this poem, the writer has compared tiger, as though he has given us the symmetry of tiger, and the tiger must be the spiritual force of the poet, who has the dangerous, the powerful might with which he can fight the corruption of society. I hope you can understand the point, like what he wants to say actually, that we have to understand only, because poets are always suggestive through their symbolic poetry. They give suggestions only. I read the last two stanzas. When the stars threw down their spears and water, he's talking about the stars who are shining, and the watered heaven with their tears. And then this is considered to be the most confusing stanza, where the critics have said that the writer has written the same line, when the stars threw down their spears, in his in some other work of his, but clear-cut meaning is not present. Did he smile his work too? But the last two lines can be understood easily. Did he smile his work to see that when God, having created this ferocious creature, tiger, did he smile at his own work? So here he has created, like, the mysticism he has created, that how can this nature be filled with two contrasting elements? On one hand, we have lamb, innocent, and soft, unharming, and on the other hand, creature like tiger, harming, ferocious, fearsome. Did he who made lamb make thee? And in the next line, he has created what I have explained right now. And then the last stanza, tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forest of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? In the first stanza, there was the word could has been replaced here with the word dare. So this is a simple explanation. Now let me read something which I have collected, so that we can understand this poem in some depth. First of all, I would like to read something about the fifth stanza, which I said that was very confusing to understand. The fifth stanza is more puzzling, but stars have long been associated with human destiny, as the root of astrology highlights. There is a critic, Kathleen Rain. This stanza can be linked, according to her, this stanza can be linked with another of William Blake's works, The Four Zoas. ZOAS, where the phrase which we also find in the tiger, the stars threw down their spears, also appears. Again, a very, very, very deep research. There it is, the godlike creator of the universe. Now, if we read all the works of William Blake, we come to know that he has created, in his own mythology, he has created a character, Urizen. So in that poem, Urizen in Blake's mythology, who utters this line, Urizen's fall and the fall of the stars and planets are what brought about the creation of life on earth in Blake's creation story. When the creator fashioned the tiger, when God made tiger, Blake asked, did he look with pride upon the animal he had created? It's very simple to understand now for us, that when we like suppose I'm making this video, and I always watch it again sometimes, like, have I delivered the lecture authentically or meaningfully, or have I committed certain errors, or should I delete this part or that part? Though mostly I don't delete, I simply very callous in attitude. When I deliver a lecture, I just capture it. I just make a recording and I simply upload it. because we are human beings and we understand that, I cannot claim that I'm perfect, flawless. So the writer is asking the same question, that does creator see at his own work with pride, that, oh, I have created this kind of ferocious a creature. The Tiger is a highly symbolic poem based on Blake's personal philosophy of spiritual and intellectual revolution by individual. Uh, Another poem of William Blake, which is very famous and highly anthologized, is London. There, the writer has asked seminal questions and put a question mark on the social, political, and religious things which have corrupted or which have corrupting influence on human beings. So I think this poem also gives, us, through Tiger, the writer wants to convey that a common individual should have a fierceness in his soul, through which he can bring about a revolution in a society. And then we can see that, the poem is highly influenced by French Revolution, where, individuals are asked to stand against the atrocious system. So the fearful symmetry, this tiger's fearful symmetry, should stand against the forest of night. The tiger is a symbolic tiger. The tiger is a symbolic tiger which represents the fierce force in the human soul. It is created in the fire of imagination by the God who has a supreme imagination, spirituality, and ideals. The anvil, the chain, hammer, furnace, and fire are parts of the imaginative artist's powerful meanings of creation. The imaginative artist is synonymous with the creator. This I have read because throughout this explanation, I have been explaining that here the tiger is not the usual tiger, as is can be understood by looking at the spelling, the altered, unusual spelling of the word tiger. The forest is the symbol of corrupted social conventions and that tries to suppress the good human potentials. In the poem, night stands for ignorance, out of which the forest of false social institutions is made. So I have read almost many things which are important to understand this poem, and that's it, I think, for today. Thank you very much.